tell y'all something. Y'all so bad. You trying to get me in trouble? Y'all have asked some dangerous opera questions. And as the saying goes, you ask a dangerous question, you get a dangerously long-winded tangential ADHD collection of opera-adjacent mini video essays. Why does opera hurt my ears? How old do I need to be to sing opera safely? Can we please talk about the Chalamet of it all? And come to think of it, what's with the lack of microphones? Why are we still performing atonal stuff when we have 100 years of proof that audiences hate it? And what is it with all the people? This is about you guys, not me. Hi, I'm Cait. I'm an opera singer. I've been singing opera for just about 20 years. I have performed in opera companies and touring ensembles all over the world. I have a master's degree in operatic performance from the Royal College of Music, all of which means I'm extremely qualified to answer your questions. And wildly unqualified to do it quickly. At Gwenly River asks, would a 14-year-old be able to sing opera safely? Yes. Next question. No, I'm kidding. The answer is yes. Seriously, you can. I've had a lot of questions along these lines about singing opera at like a younger age, younger than adulthood, and I do have a whole video coming on that, so stay tuned for that. But for today, we'll just focus on the general questions in this category. You can totally sing opera safely as a teenager, but please, 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 don't prove them right. Please do it with a teacher. And this applies to everyone, no matter if you're a young or an old singer. Sorry. Opera is a high intensity vocal sport, so it's kind of like trying to become a bodybuilder by yourself. You're probably gonna hurt yourself. Even if you don't want to be a professional, if you want to sing opera, let's get a teacher, please. Now look, I know what you're thinking. Cait, it is 2026 and milk is more expensive than the actual cow that it came from. Also, my social anxiety will barely allow me to Google voice teachers, let alone actually reach out to them. Relatable. Love and light. But you're going to need that feedback because it's dangerous to try and copy the sound of opera without knowing what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it that way. A teacher's job is to listen to you and actually hear what you yourself are doing in terms of technique and to try and help you do that in a healthy way. Especially if you really do want a career in the future, your voice is going to be your livelihood. Now, this is true whether you want to sing opera or not, because we can never forget, if your voice goes broke, you go broke. And I get it, it's 2026 and pretty much everything that you want to learn can be learned online. I did that. I've edited all of my videos myself just with stuff that I've learned by watching YouTube videos. I know. But if you try and do that with opera,
you will get pregnant and die.
The number one job of a voice teacher is to prevent that. The injury. I mean, not the pregnancy. Stop and get myself a pause for coffee. Okay, now let's assume that you're convinced. I love that for us. I'm gonna go ahead and put some resources here on the screen of places that you can find a voice teacher if you don't know where to start. Pause, take a screenshot. So yes, a teenager absolutely can sing opera safely, but please do it under the guidance of a teacher. Moving on. At KTDJ4IY asks, according to Leonard Bernstein, back in the day, opera was popular music. But today, opera is to most people posh, refined, high art. How did that happen? Great question. Short answer? Gatekeeping and academia. I've already made a whole video about the gatekeeping piece, so I want to do the long-winded answer about the academia component. I'll put the video for the gatekeeping down in the description. I've said before that opera can be experienced in 3 different ways, right? We've got the emotional experience, we've got the academic experience, and then we've got like this little place in the middle where you can do both. It's like a little Venn diagram. A Ludwig van Beethoven diagram. George Gershwin. Vincenzo Bellini. That was a reach. The emotional piece is how most people discover art. Oh my God, I've just realized that I'm holding my microphone. I'm so sorry. Hold on, let me fix that. Sorry about that. Emotionally is how most people discover art for the first time. You see something, it moves you, you like it, you go find more of it, right? The problem with opera is that most people don't experience it emotionally first. It's not like you listen to opera on the radio, unless you just bought a butt pimple car and it's stuck on NPR or whatever your normal classical music station is. But you know what I mean. Spotify's not pushing Massenet to the masses. I know for a fact that your cardio playlist is tragically lacking Verdi. So instead, most people are encountering opera in academic settings, school, textbooks, a well-rounded childhood. And the moment something starts living inside academia, this weird thing happens. People start acting insufferable. Suddenly you need an education to get it. You need money for lessons. You need parents who'll take you to concerts. You need a friend called Sebastian explaining leitmotifs to you over afternoon tea, you know? And that's how the audience shrinks. Suddenly it becomes accessible to fewer and fewer people, and then by the time you get to today, you've got an entire audience full of posh, refined, educated people. It's a pretty homogenous group. And opera's not the only genre that suffers from this, by the way. Jazz also has a little bit of this as well. It's albeit in like a slightly more suspenders fashion. And this is why, while I do applaud all of the opera outreach stuff that happens where people are approaching it from this educational angle, I don't necessarily think that that's the best way to bring opera back into the mainstream. On this channel, I try and approach opera emotionally first. That's why I use memes. That's why I swear. Like, yes, I think opera can be pretty transcendent, but like, I also doom scroll. I'm not getting to the theater in a horse-drawn carriage. You know what I mean? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm going to teach you at the same time. You better believe we are putting vegetables inside this pasta sauce. But like, my favorite comments that I get from you guys are the ones where people are like, do I care about opera? No. Did I watch a whole 18-minute video about it? Yes. Beautiful. We welcome both new and long-term guests in our village of Twiddly Diddly upon Thames. The fact that you're still here, quite literally in this video, but also on this channel, means that something is landing emotionally. And emotional relevance is how you make people care. And when people care, that is how art survives. Speaking of people caring, at FurrinCan9999 says, please address the Timothée Chalamet comment taking shots at opera. Gladly. If you're not aware, Timothée Chalamet recently said some spicy things about opera.
Hey, we got to keep movie theaters alive. You know, we got to keep this genre alive. And another part of me feels like if people want to see it like Barbie, like Oppenheimer, they're going to go see it and go out of their way to be loud and proud about it. And I don't want to be working in ballet or opera or, you know, things where it's like, hey, keep this thing alive, even though no one cares about this anymore. All respect to the ballet and opera people out there.
Now, I know that sounds bad, but to his credit, he immediately tried to walk it back. Like, oh no, I have said a thing.
All respect to the ballet and opera people out there. I just lost 14 cents in viewership. But, damn, I just took shots for no reason.
So, like, I don't know about you guys, but at several times in my life, I have put not only my whole foot in my mouth, but also, like, you know, my calf, pretty much up to my knee, contortionist levels of gauche. You clock it, you regret it, you try and pull it back. Clearly that's what happened here. We're all human, okay? So let's contextualize the point that I think he was probably trying to make here. Did you hear how my glasses just, like, they're the noisiest things? Crazy. His point wasn't about opera or ballet for that matter. His point was about movie theaters and how they're declining in relevance in society, or they seem to be. And as somebody who's an actor, he cares a lot about film. That's his art form that he's passionate about. And he's worried that in the future, it could become something irrelevant that his audience doesn't care about anymore. I think every artist understands that. I certainly do. It's a big fear. But still, okay, he took some shots and I see that my colleagues are getting mad at it. So what are they reacting to? I think there are two main points that he really like niggled accidentally. The first is this idea that art needs to be relevant. It's a big conversation in the art world. And the second, that opera is not. My take? I think he's right. Granted, he didn't say it elegantly. It was a little unnecessarily out of pocket. Like, opera's just out here minding its own business and then suddenly it's catching strays. But still, fundamentally, right. Most people don't care about opera. The audience is small. Declining ticket sales, tanking streaming numbers. Just like every day in our normal anecdotal lives, we can see that most people don't care about opera. And instead of screaming at him on the internet, an engagement most undignified, and I shall not partake. I kind of wish that institutions would instead just be like, you know what? Fair. Imagine if they responded that way. You know why that would be so powerful? Because we can't fix a problem until we can admit that it's there. Of course, you do have to get past all the people who think that there isn't a problem, that like opera shouldn't be more popular or more mainstream because that would like ruin the whole point of opera. And like, okay, fine. Riddle me this. How do you think that opera's gonna survive if no one is listening to it? If an opera singer falls in the woods and there's no one there to hear it? Was anyone ever listening in the first place? I'm kidding. I love opera. I have a whole channel about opera, okay? Okay. But seriously, the whole reason that I run this channel is because I do think that opera, on its own merit, can still help people to find beauty and meaning and connection in life. Isn't that the point of art? I don't want opera to become something that's only a memory, something that you can only read about and not actually like experience with your own ears in a seat, having it come at your face. Like, that's a totally different experience. I want opera on the damn ofrenda of every casa we can find, because the more people can remember it, the longer it is going to survive. Timothee's just out here saying what everyone already knows is true. He is not the problem. Opera is not the problem. Pretending there is no problem is the problem. That's my take. Moving on. Manolo Core asks, I'm a man with priorities. What's the name of the cat? Finally, a serious question. This is Cleo. Obviously, she is the real celebrity of this channel. She's a huge homebody. A huge body in general, am I right? Which is why she's in pretty much every video, but she hates it when I sing, and she always leaves, like, as soon as I open my mouth. A brutal but fat critic. Huh? Fair. Sorry. A fair critic. Then we have Soka. As you can see, he is half cat, half raccoon, half bear, half goat, half bee, and half seal. Also, he is a fully grown cat, despite looking like somebody just enlarged a kitten. He's so cute! And then last we have Ryuko. Fun fact about Ryuko, he is actually 2 kittens inside 1 cat trench coat. True story. Also, he has no teeth because he's extremely dedicated to the craft of being orange, and he's the only cat who likes my singing. Although we suspect he might also be deaf, so. At Felipe2001 says, my favorite videos of yours are the unofficial opera guides. I wish you had done a few more of them, or that you will do some more in the future. Well, Felipe, do I have some exciting news for you? You guys may have noticed something about this channel. Did you just hear my throat? Sorry, I didn't mean for that to be like the longest wait for the punchline ever. I don't work with sponsors, or at least I haven't. Yeah, now it's not because companies haven't asked, they have. But most of the offers are kind of like, hey, Cait, do you want to have the opportunity to sell our amazing AI music software program? We'll even give you the opportunity to create a library of your very own voice. Is that a threat? No. Like, not that I'm anti-AI or anything like that, but it's a bold marketing strategy to reach out to an opera singer and ask them to sell software that's designed to replace the musicians whose music they scraped without permission or payment. It's a ballsy email. I respect the confidence. I also get a lot of offers to hawk you guys things like incredibly expensive, very scientifically dubious beauty products, or like ergonomic desk setups, or I don't know, like office equipment, health supplemented, like look, I'm not morally superior to any other influencers. There are certain sponsors that I would love to work with, of course. But I do think that one of the most absolute world suck things that you can do as somebody who has the trust of an audience is try and sell them things that will not only not make their lives better, but will also actively hurt the world. So instead, this channel is currently funded by a radical concept called having a full-time job. It takes 160 of my hours every month. I'm blinking twice. I won't hold you in suspense anymore. You guys know where this is going. This video is sponsored by my Patreon announcement. Welcome to Twiddly Diddly Upon Thames, the Scores Unstitched Patreon community. Let me give you a tour. We're quite small at the moment, but over here you'll see that we have some behind the scenes content. And over there we've got early uncensored access to all of the YouTube videos, salacious language included, since we don't have to worry about the monetization monopoly over on YouTube. Become a villager. It's free, and you'll be able to hear what I just said. And then long term, I would love to have like a whole collection of scorecard videos, just like the ones that I have on the channel, except I'm gonna keep those on the channel, but then they would just be like Patreon members only type stuff in the future. But again, full-time job, so no promises yet. Eventually, long term. So if you enjoy what I'm doing here, opera outreach, classical music, I shudder to think education, meme, lording, I don't know. Click this link or down in the description to go check out the Twiddly Diddly Upon Thames Scores Unstitched Patreon community. You know, if you don't feel like packing up all your boxes and moving into a new village right now, that's totally fine. But whether you do decide to go over there or just stay here as one of the almost 60,000 people now who are here in this community, that's crazy. Thank you. Seriously, the entire reason that this channel exists is because you guys are here. You're awesome. Moving on. At RidianMan267 asks, I do have a vibrato-related question. Why isn't vibrato on the score/manuscript in the same way as tempo and dynamics? If the composer had a specific performance of a piece in mind, shouldn't that be on the score? I love all the vibrato-related questions because, like, dang, your guys' opinions about vibrato are what opened my eyes to the fact that this was even a topic that was worth discussing. Like, here I was just thinking it's like equivalent to how I tie my shoes. And then I find out that you guys are all up in arms because I use tweezers. I digress. The long and short of it is because composers don't have to. When composers write for a specific genre, they assume that the performer already knows the style. Like if you're going to choreograph for a ballerina, you don't have to say, please point your toes. You know, that it's just part of the style. They're going to do that. If a sports ball coach is drawing up a play, they don't have to tell the players how to run. I think you get my point. It's the same thing with vibrato. If you write a piece for an opera singer, you're writing for the opera style. Vibrato is part of the opera style, so it's going to be part of the piece. Of course, that applies to composers like in modern times, right? Historically speaking, this is when we start getting into some interesting debate. We don't have recordings of what people sounded like in the 1750s, you know? We have to rely on written documentation and technique dissertations of what we think opera might have sounded like. That's why Baroque opera is usually sung in a much lighter, sometimes even vibrato-less style, because we sort of have this pretty well backed up documented idea that Bach and Handel would have had heart attacks if we had applied Wagnerian style opera to their music. We can't know for sure, but the evidence kind of suggests that that was the style of the music, and most singers will try to respect that. You could say it's an educated guess from secondary sources and historical documents, and like you can see how this like always slips back into academia, how we're constantly getting exposed to things in a non-emotional way. Do I need to bring back the diagram, Johnson? Okay, now back to modern composers. That's where things get a little bit different because, you know, they're alive. Unfun fact, Bach and Handel also used to be alive at one point. I told you I have a degree. When you work with contemporary composers, they're usually there with you, especially if you're going to be premiering their piece, so they can tell you exactly what they want. And oftentimes they will ask for specific techniques, things like removing vibrato. There's actually a whole niche. This is one of those words that I like constantly pronounce differently depending on what I'm doing. Niche of opera singers who specifically specialize in contemporary works with modern composers because they enjoy the challenge of that. Other singers completely avoid it because contemporary composers do have a reputation for saying things like, what do you mean you can't find the B flat the tuba's playing in its 15-part chord and sing it straight tone but only the third and fifth overtones and only sing for 1/16 of a second even though the tempo isn't even close to 60 BPM? So, why isn't vibrato written in the score? Because it's already part of the style. Rosalind Plaat 380 asks, wait, what? You're Dutch? Lots of comments like this. Hi, Dutchies. For the record, I'm not Dutch. At least not yet. I did literally just get my application for citizenship approved in the mail, like literally yesterday. So now I'm only one naturalization ceremony away from actually being able to celebrate a worst case scenario and congratulating everyone around me. And then we can all walk outside and see the little tiny bit of sun coming through the sky and we can go, wat lekker jongens, het is zo bijzonder, hè? Culturally, I'm American, you can probably tell. But I do put like a little asterisk there because I was a military kid, so I was raised kind of like all over the US for half my childhood, but then also all over the world for the other half of my childhood. I did my master's in London and then I moved here to the Netherlands and I've spent the vast majority of my adult life outside the US. So that is why I speak Dutch, and as much as I appreciate all the comments complimenting my accent, thank you. I do always say that it becomes a lot more obvious the longer I speak. Ik zit ergens tussen de B1 en B2 in het Nederlands, volgens mij. Maar ja, de normale dingen zoals een afspraak maken bij de huisarts of kletsen met mijn katten gaan prima in het Nederlands. So not Dutch. Yet. At Tabitha Rasa Project asks, why does opera hurt to listen to? I mean, it really hurts most of the time. It's physically painful to my ears. Am I just broken? Oh God, no, you're not broken. Our lovely producer/director over here, Rabin, has exactly the same problem.
What?
He's deaf from all the singing that I've done. He like physically evacuates the room whenever I sing. Rude. Do you want to say it yourself in your own words? He says it's like a weird feeling of a fluctuating pressure bubble just outside his ear and a painful feeling inside his ear, like a part of his inner ear has reached critical resonance. Thank you. I'm flattered. The reason opera can feel painful is because of a technique that we use called squillo. There's a really good TED talk that breaks this down more detailedly. I'll link that down below, but just a quick overview. Every pitch you hear has a fundamental tone, the one that you hear the loudest, but then on top of that, it also has overtones, which are like these higher frequencies that are stacked on top of that fundamental. You can actually isolate the overtones in singing by manipulating your mouth and your tongue like this. Ooh. so we've got that. Now, human ears are more sensitive to certain frequencies, somewhere between the 2000 and 5000 hertz range. So as opera singers, we learn to emphasize those particular frequencies by highlighting the overtones in our singing. So it's the difference between ooh and ooh. And there's no change in volume in that, at least not one that I'm creating. I'm literally just manipulating the frequencies so that your ear picks up that volume more strongly. So this squillo, combined with the aggressive volume training that we actually do as opera singers, are both combined what allow us to carry over that orchestra without a microphone and cut through directly to your ears. We literally learn in our lessons how to manipulate the physics of sound through acoustic targeting. We are targeting our voices at the frequencies that your brain will hear best. It's metal as f. Side note, this is why you'll often see opera singers cheated out on stage, even if they're supposedly talking to like a love interest in a scene. Part of it's because we don't have mics, so if we sing this way, our voice is like going off stage, hello, you can't hear anything. But also, part of it is that we're not immune, we have ears too, and ideally we're not gonna explode the eardrums of the person next to us. It is hella loud. So are you broken for finding opera painful? No, perfectly normal. Maybe just back up a little bit. You and Rabin can start a support group together. At Sleep Disordered Breathing asks, would you kindly share with us where you're at vocally now? What's your voice like now? Yeah, so in 2019, I hemorrhaged one of my vocal cords and it developed a blood polyp, which was exactly as fun as it sounds. I spent about 4 months working with an SLP, a speech language pathologist who specialized in rehabilitating opera singers. And then after that time, I had 2 options. She said I could either get surgery to try and fix the scar tissue that had developed, or I could continue doing vocal therapy and get back into singing lessons and then just see what my body did naturally. I went for the second option, the non-surgical option, because the thing that I had made my career on, this ability to float these very high, very soft, no vibrato notes, that were very spinny and pure and pretty. I couldn't do that anymore because it requires like this tiniest, thinnest little itty bitty part of your vocal cords to come together, and that was now covered in scar tissue. So if my voice was not going to be the same, regardless of whether I had the scar tissue or someone had stuck a knife down my throat, I was like, you know what? Maybe we just won't stick the knife down my throat. So when I moved here to the Netherlands, the intention was to continue singing. So I went back to voice lessons with a new teacher, but I had no interest in like figuring out how the injury had happened or learning a new technique. I just wanted to go back to how I had sounded before and what I was doing before. And she didn't want to help me with that. And I was frustrated and hurt. She was completely correct, for the record, completely correct to not let me go back to that. Again, I refer you back to get a good teacher. I think I was hurting a little bit too much, like literally vocally, but also mentally. And so we just decided that it was not the right time for me to be doing voice lessons. I needed to take a break and go do some other stuff. And therapy. A lot of therapy. Check. And it wasn't until about a year ago, actually, that I went back to that same teacher who I'm still with now. And I think that was the right move. I definitely can't do some of the stuff that I could do before, but I'm much more okay with that now. I'm curious about what I can do now, like stuff that I wasn't able to do in the past. Like I have low notes now. That's new. Like full notes.
Round low notes.
So at this point, I definitely am recovered, or like at least as recovered as you can be with scar tissue. If I wanted to go back into opera, I could do that safely, or at least I could try to get back into the professional circuit. But I actually don't have a plan to do that right now. In those 5 years that I spent away from the industry, I kind of realized that I don't want to go back. When I put myself on stage again, and that will happen, stay tuned, I want it to be on my own terms. I want to be my own puppet master. I want to control my own strings. Don't forget, Patreon below. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.